I don't want to make it about you, but then again, it's a radio show.
Sure, yeah.
So, like, we can make it a little bit about you.
I'll take it, yeah.
You were on this before anybody.
I was.
Yeah.
And I do.
What was that? But go back to the beginning. Why did you circle him? Quite frankly, it feels like it was...
Stalkerish?
Well, no. Was it... I'm trying to think calendar-wise. Was it during the tournament or was it right after?
I would say even a shade before.
Okay.
As we were starting to yak in.
So it's June 24th. That means that you are saying right about mid-March.
Or even a shade earlier.
Yeah. That you brought up Yaxel.
Yes. Well, and you were making fun of me because every day I was doing my pencil and paper thing with the daily matchups for college basketball, trying to perfect my system so that when I go to Vegas that my gambling system is all fine-tuned and ready. So starting in about December, I was watching a lot of college basketball and mid-majors and all the rest of it. And then you start to see the cream rise, and then you do a little bit of a deeper dive on those teams, and you look at Michigan, and he stands out. And you look at him and you go, wow. You start to search up mock drafts, and he was mocked in that 10 to 15 range.
Right, but I mean, at that time, we didn't even know what pick the Warriors had.
We didn't.
Their season wasn't even over yet.
I mean, it kind of was when Jimmy got hurt.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, the regular season was still going.
Yes.
You didn't know that the Warriors were going to even be in the lottery, let alone what pick would they have in the lottery. And you're like, Yaxel Lendeborg.
Yes.
And I'm like, the country? That little country? What's it? What? I don't even know what you're saying to me right now.
Yeah.
And now he's a Warrior.
He is. And ultimately, when the Warriors get knocked out in the play-in and then they go in the lottery and they don't move off of 11, you look at it at 11 and you say, yeah, he probably will be there and he might be the best fit. So we'll go ahead and say Yaxel Lendeborg. And we were right. So there you have it.
You were right.
Yes. Well, everyone else is right, too.
Say it.
I had it first.
Say I was right.
Off my Yaxel, Steiny, and all the rest of you, and Larry Beal, who I love. Y'all were late to the party.
Oh, that's why it's fine to be late. Like, you can still be into it. Like, I'm allowed to root here at the World Cup. I will not have any of this crap. I'm like, I don't like it when people do. It's funny. It's almost like a much, much calmer, more playful thing than all the stuff that happens in the political and social arena. But the lovely Christy and I are having a kind of a World Cup off. Because she's like, I don't like it when people don't watch soccer and then the World Cup comes around and then they're like, yeah, soccer! And I'm like, well, first of all, that's not what it is. I just don't have a team. So there's soccer on. I always appreciate soccer, but I don't yak in because I don't have a team. I always enjoy the sport, and I love the tournament, the World Cup. And so then I fire back. I'm like, I don't like it when people try to be bouncers at the World Cup. And, like, don't keep people out. You know, we had that whole segment 2 weeks ago about the WNBA, who I feel like sometimes it's like, let the red ropes down. I understand all the social aspects of it, but invite people in. Right. So we're kind of in that. I know there's a lot of that out there, as if you need to, like, earn your fandom to the World Cup or something. No, just it's on. Go crazy.
It's on, and it's during the day, and
it's all day, every day.
Like today, there's 6 matches.
I love sporting events like this.
2 matches concurrently 3 different times today, so we've got 2 screens right now. Our screens are watching the World Cup. And yesterday we were out at Laughing Monk, the gastropub here in the city, and I happened to bump into Chris Brown, the head coach of USF men's soccer coach, who is a P1 listener. What up, Chris? And his coaching staff were there, and we're chatting it up and talking soccer. And he's like, hey, is Willard into soccer? And I said, not so much, but he's into this. And I said, he likes soccer. He appreciates it. But come World Cup time, he's all about it. Yeah, no, and my daughter was a high school soccer player, so like there's no shortage on the appreciation for the sport. I don't watch it every day. Right. But I don't get to the World Cup and feel like I need some sort of entrance ticket. Just no, and I love sporting events. That's one of my favorite things about the NCAA basketball tournament and the World Cup. Like, if it's off, we go to bed. When we wake up, it's back on. I love that. Yep.
Let's do this for a whole month. There's just soccer on. Whenever you want it to be on.
And that's kind of how I feel about the Olympics, too.
And then we learn about countries. I don't know what the hell a Capo Verde was.
Right.
I do now.
Yep. And
Sweet.
That's the beauty of it. And I think the event is so great because Cabo Verde's got 500,000 people, I think, and the U.S. has more than 300 million. And for 90 minutes, that tiny little country can be better than the big, bad United States. And it's just kind of the purity of the event, but it's offset by the impurity of the organization that runs the event. So I try
that's a good point.
I try to forget that part of it because, so much about sports, the innocence of the actual event can be corrupted, point intended there, by the organization.
Nice job.
Thank you.
But anyway, Yaxel Lendeborg. So here we are, and they make the pick. And I do think that, in many ways, this is the first representation, if you will, of what Steve Kerr kind of called a transitional period. And so I'm not going to stand on a bunch of boxes and scream that Yaxel's going to be amazing. But I really do think I'm interested. I'm interested to see how they do this. And I don't want to ever sound like, I'm responding to people who didn't even call our show, but I've heard a lot of people throughout the day, a lot of 95.7 The Game for me today. I was running a lot of errands, doing some things. The radio was on the whole day. Smart speaker, all the stuff. And I heard a lot of you do the whole, I don't even know why we care who the Warriors picks. Not like Steve Kerr's going to play him. And I'm like, okay. I understand the wounds that are there. I'm fully aware of the wounds that are there. And maybe I'm the gullible one. But we've been listening to what the Warrior organization has been talking about throughout the end of last season and into this offseason. And I firmly believe that the Warriors are aware. They are aware that it is time to do a few things differently. And I would be, and I mean all caps, shocked if Yaxel did not, from the jump, play a lot of minutes this year. And I think that Mike Dunleavy and Steve Kerr, if you're listening closely enough, have already told you that. Yeah. They've said it.
Yeah, they've said they need people. They have 4 healthy players under contract, and Yaxel not yet under contract. They just drafted him. They have to sign him. I think that they will, and hopefully they trot him out in one of the various summer leagues and you get a chance to see him in Vegas or maybe even the California Classic in Sacramento. But yes, they need bodies. They need human beings who can play. And this is not your fresh out of college 19-year-old. The guy's going to be 24 in September.
Going to be.
And just looking at it, he won't be the youngest on the team, assuming he signs.
No, Pods is younger, right?
Pods is younger, and Will Richard is younger.
Sure.
And Guy is just a tiny bit older, as is Moses Moody, who's been here forever.
That's crazy. Mike Dunleavy was asked, how much do you think Yaxel's going to play this year?
I think it's tough. Anytime a guy's changing levels, whether you're going from high school to college to the NBA, so it's hard to say. But generally, guys like this guy who's physically ready, he's played at the highest level of college, won a national championship, maybe those guys can play sooner. And so next year, to be frank, whether we want him to or not, given our roster constraints and injuries and stuff like that, the opportunity will be there.
Whether we want to or not, he's playing. So I totally understand that some of you might go into I'll believe it when I see it mode, but Yaxel's going to play this year. Yaxel is not going to be on the G League team.
No, he's going to play, and he's going to play a lot until you get to a spot where he proves that he's not quite NBA ready, which I don't think is going to happen. I have faith that his game will translate, but he's going to get a crack. And think about Will Richard and how much he played. He played a lot early, and then he kind of fell out of favor, and he fell back into favor. And I think that Yaxel plays a position, as you just mentioned, that they're so desperate for. They almost have no choice but to play him.
Well, and I look at that too. The investment matters, and the way you acquired a player matters. You know what I mean? So when you compare Yaxel to Will Richard, these are 2 completely different paths to the Warriors. One is a second-round pick, And the other's not just a first-round pick, he's a lottery pick. And one came in at a time where the Warriors, I think to a degree, were still kidding themselves. And another one comes in at a time where the Warriors, I don't think, are kidding themselves anymore. And they're much more aware of their position. I look at that almost like Zach Littell and Rafi Devers. Both of them can yell at the manager. One of them's going to get DFA, and the other one's going to back cleanup tomorrow because they are two completely different kinds of investments who found their way to their respective teams in a completely different way. So Yaxel is one of one. This is the one and only lottery pick of Mike Dunleavy's career as Warriors general manager. And he's going to play.
Yeah.
And he's going to play a lot, I would bet.
I would bet he plays more than Will Richard played last year, which Will Richard played a good amount. He wound up playing in 69 of the 82 games, and he averaged 20 minutes a game. That's an example of a head coach playing somebody. And I know that some of the circumstances were Steph was gone for a while and Jimmy Butler out for the year, but Will Richard was given a little bit more of a long leash than many people would have thought. And I loved Will Richard last year.
Yes, you did.
When I saw him at Florida and I met him at Summer League.
Past tense?
I still do.
Are
of
you
course.
sure?
Yeah, no doubt.
It doesn't seem the same.
It is the same.
I think that the magic is gone.
Well, you're a year in, and so the newness and the freshness.
The sizzle.
Grandy and I sat down with him at Summer League, and I got a chance to see the moxie and the self-confidence and the gravitas. And, another guy who came in off a natty, off the national championship.
Yeah,
and so he came in with that same sort of I belong vibe. And, yeah, Yaxel's kind of the flavor of the month now. He's the new kid on the block.